Thank you, Louise. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Taxes aren't the funnest subject, I'll tell you that. So I want to thank you for joining us today, but taxes are so essential for your business, especially right now with everything we have going on with COVID-19 and PPP and SBA. When it comes down to your company's financials, that's what's going to get you funding. And so that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. And there we go. And again, I'm Amber Avis-Hinojosa. I actually started my business out of MileOne. I was working at my family accounting office, CPA office for about 5 years. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to start my little side hustle. I'm going to start building my own clientele. And I started at MileOne. And so I started with a talking tax presentation, kind of like this, when the 2018 tax updates came into play. And I got my first round of clients by doing that. And so MileOne has been, my starting point. Since the pandemic, I, changed my office to my home. And so I'm here at 1802 Houston Street. About me, I am an accountant. I have a degree in accounting and a degree in political science. I am also a candidate for the Certified Financial Planner designation. And so I'll be sitting for that in July, as long as COVID restrictions don't stop it the way they did last year. And like I said, I'm a small business owner, and I started my business so I could help other small businesses. I wanted to help the little guys. I wanted to help people that I knew get started and kind of be their person that we can hold hands, and you can call me and we can find the solution, or I can be your go-to person when it comes to anything tax and financial and strategic management for the growth of your company. And so I want to turn your passion into profit. That's what I've done for myself. And like I said, I have 2 companies. I'm hopefully going to be opening up another one pretty soon, and I'm here to guide you along the way. And so just a few things we're going to go over today is, what is a small business? Are you a small business? Why you should consider hiring a tax professional, especially, with everything that's going on during this pandemic and all the loans that are available. And also all the tax provisions and how they affect you as a small business owner, and some strategies that I would like to remind you for your 2020 taxes that you're in preparation of right now, which you can file now. We just got an extension to June 15th if you live in Texas. And also some things that I would kind of consider for 2021. So some early planning things that you can consider for your business. Okay, so let's get started. So what is a small business? Well, as long as you have less than 500 employees, 7.5 million in gross receipts, you're either self-employed, you're an entrepreneur, you might be a contractor for somebody, you do freelance work, or you received a 1099, you're a small business. A lot of people don't think that they're a business, but they receive a 1099 and they'll put it just in the 1099 box on TurboTax, and then they'll be taxable for that whole amount, not knowing that they can take that 1099 amount, put it in a Schedule C, put a bunch of deductions that are business related, and bring down their tax liability. So there's also a lot of tax structure, and sometimes people think, well, I never filed my business. I never set up my LLC or my DBA, so I'm not going to file a tax return. And that's incorrect. You can file your tax return as a Schedule C as a sole proprietor without having to have an LLC or an EIN, and just put what your gross receipts are, put your business expenses, and you're a small business. And so even somebody like Justin Bieber, who makes under 7.5 million a year, he's a small business. And so I'm sure that there are many of you out there that fall into that category as well. So as long as you're not a W-2 employee, and you can be a W-2 employee plus have 1099 income. That's kind of how I got started. I was a W-2 employee, started my side hustle, and then I became a business owner. And so I find it very important right now to hire a tax professional if you're just kind of getting started. You don't want to start on the wrong foot with the IRS. Um, I find that a lot of people, especially small business owners, they don't have the time, or maybe not necessarily the knowledge, but to kind of like put in all of their business expenses into QuickBooks and kind of know where everything goes. And so preparing your own taxes can be time consuming and stressful. I once had an 80-year-old client that came in and said, I fear the IRS more than I fear the devil. Like, she legit said that. I'll never forget that woman, because some people just have this fear of doing things wrong. And so whether you hire a tax preparer, an accountant, a CPA, they're going to help your bottom line show what it needs to show. And remember that your tax preparations are 100% deductible. So if you pay somebody for bookkeeping, if you pay somebody to run your payroll, if you pay somebody to file your taxes and you're a small business, it's 100% deductible. Whereas if you're a W-2 employee, it's not deductible, only unless you itemize. And so the tax code is very confusing and it's always changing. And honestly, we're going to see it change 3 times since the last 2018 tax code revision. And so you want to make sure that you're not missing out on a deduction, you're not missing out on a credit, and you're also not required to pay the IRS more than you need to. I also helped a client this past week. She called me freaking out that she had put all her numbers into TurboTax and she owed $4,000 because she had a 1099. She had an EIN, she had an LLC, she has a separate business checking account and a bunch of expenses. And so she didn't even know that she could move that to her Schedule C. And so after I kind of helped her with her return, she ended up getting a $4,500 refund. And so tax advice comes along with it, depending who you go to. I know it's like a Laredo culture thing to go to a notary, but I would seriously consider advising against that. Seek a tax professional, somebody that has to do their annual training and know all the changes that are happening on a day-to-day basis with the IRS. At the end of the day, no matter who prepares your tax return, you are liable. You are liable when you sign that line that says your signature on your tax return and it's e-filed, the numbers that are on your taxes, whether somebody prepared it or not, the IRS is going to come after you. And so you want to make sure that it's always accurate. And now more than ever, if you're trying to apply for a PPP loan or SBA loan, or you want to get a mortgage because the rates are so low, or you want to refinance your home, they're going to ask you for your tax documents. They're going to ask you for your Schedule C. They're going to want to see your profit. They want to make sure that you're profitable so that you can afford to pay your loan, so that you can afford to pay your mortgage. And so you want to make sure that, one, you're reporting everything correctly, and that you're also, like my husband says, you're playing to the music that the bank wants you to dance to. And so that's one of the big reasons, especially right now with everything that's coming out new with the CARES Act, and we have another piece of legislation I'm going to talk about next. But it's so vital for your business, and it's a business deduction. So whoever you hire, make sure you do it. Okay, so like I said, in 2018, the tax code was updated and we saw businesses get a lot of more deductions and leeway versus being a W-2 employee. Prior to 2018, low income and middle income families, they would get the biggest refunds and credits. And when the tax code changed in 2018, we saw that it's more beneficial to be a business. Now, when the pandemic happened and the pandemic hit, businesses were affected the most. People shut down, they had to let go of employees, people were lining up at the unemployment line, and it's really been chaos this last year. And so Congress has been going head to head trying to sign the right deals so that you know, we have two parties and sometimes they don't see eye to eye on certain issues, but essentially whatever they pass is going to affect you, the taxpayer, you, the small business owner, the most. And so those three major parts of legislation were the CARES Act, the Emergency Coronavirus Relief Act, and also the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. This is on the table right now. We're hoping that it either gets passed on Friday or gets passed on Monday. I have actually been holding on to a few tax returns because I heard in the tax world that unemployment might not be taxable. Right now it is. And so if they pass this and make unemployment taxable, we're going to have to undo a bunch of returns and amend them. And so I'll go over kind of the changes that are coming from each legislation and then move on to how they can affect your business. And so the CARES Act, that's where we saw our first stimulus payment. We saw federal unemployment. We found out about PPP and SBA loans. And one of the big things that you'll see on your tax return is if maybe you didn't qualify for a PPP loan in that first round because you didn't show profit, but you had employees, you can use the employee retention credit. And so this is basically a refundable payroll tax credit of 50% of the wages, up to $10,000 per employee, as long as your business was fully or partially suspended due to the pandemic. And you can also credit to employers that have a greater than 50% reduction based on their quarterly receipts. So again, it's gonna, like, you need to have these quarterly profit and loss and quarterly bank statements and those ready available so that when it comes time to do those credit, you have the evidence to back it up, because that's basically what they're going to ask for. And so you need to be able to prove it. Another thing is on the CARES Act that we saw is that you could delay payroll taxes. So if you employee portion of payroll taxes, so let's say you pay 100,000 in wages, you can defer the 7.65% that belongs to the employer, your employer portion, and kind of hold on to that cash in case you need it, and defer those tax payments to the end of 2021 and the end of 2022. And so this would be like a modification on your 941 report. If you have an accountant already, they should already be preparing these on a quarterly basis. And so you want to make sure that whoever does your quarterlies, that they are aware of these if you did take this credit back in 2020, and that you pay it back on time in 2021 and 2022. Another thing that we're going to see this year is that a lot of businesses are going to probably see a loss. There was months that they were shut down, and I want to say the biggest quarter impacted was the second quarter, because that's when the pandemic first happened and people were shut down. And so a lot of businesses will see net operating losses. And so the CARES Act basically said that we can roll that loss back to 3 years and forward too. So you can use the loss on, if let's say you owed for 2019, you can use that loss and roll it back. Another thing that I've seen from the CARES Act is they really didn't want people filing unemployment. And so if you had IRA money or 401k money, you can take out a withdrawal up to 100,000. But what I don't think that people understood is that it's a loan against your own money. And so you do have to pay it back in 3 years. So this year, 2020, you probably didn't, if you got to do this right, you probably didn't pay it back, but you'll have 3 years to report that you did pay it back. And so kind of just keep that in mind, that it is a loan that you took against your own money. And if you don't, it's taxable. And so there's a different form. I believe it's the 895E or 8895E. And that's where you'll report this year if you did take one of those distributions from your retirement account. The next Act, and this is the one that passed December 27, 2020, right before the end of the year. And so there was a lot of things from the CARES Act that they really didn't emphasize or give rules or limitations on. And so this was the opportunity to kind of set the rules, set some extensions on the extended periods for the payback on PPP, and also just add some things, make some modification. And so the biggest takeaways is like, if you received PPP money, now, even though that's loan money, whatever expenses you paid from that are now deductible. So that's what that act kind of brought into play. So let's say you received 100,000 in PPP for payroll and you paid 90,000 in payroll. Well, that 90,000 is deductible as a payroll expense. Another thing that a regular W-2 employee won't get to take advantage of is the self-employed tax credit for paid sick and family leave. So let's say you had COVID, you had your child had COVID, or your parent had COVID, you can take this tax credit up to 50 days. So you can take 50 days for yourself, you can take 50 days for your spouse, you can take 50 days for your child, and you can get a credit based on how many days you were sick or taking care of somebody, and based on whatever your net profit is for your Schedule C, it's going to tell you what the credit is, and the credit is actually up to $15,000. And so they're not really requiring proof to show that you had COVID, but you can put in however many days that you were out, or somebody was sick that you helped take care of them, and you would qualify for this credit. Like I said, regular W-2 employees won't be able to take this. So I felt that Congress should be doing something for our W-2 employees, because especially in our community, they're probably receiving like lower wages. And so we still need our workforce to be working, but unfortunately they haven't passed anything like that yet. So I hope to see it in the next act. Again, it modified a lot of revisions from the CARES Act. And so bringing back that employee retention tax credit, they increased it from 50% to 70% of qualified wages. They increased that $10,000 per year to $10,000 per quarter. And remember, again, that's as if you didn't receive PPP, but you did have employees, you did pay payroll, you did file your 941 report, you can take this credit. Another big thing, when the tax code changed in 2018, meals and entertainment kind of changed. You can no longer pay for concert tickets and football games on your meals and entertainment expense. So you could only put qualified business meals, and whatever that total is, 50% you can deduct on your Schedule C. Because the restaurant industry was hit so hard in 2020, moving forward in 2021, your business meals are now 100% deductible. So pick your restaurant where you want to go have a business meeting or talk business with somebody. I don't really think that they're going to be following up on receipts very much with giving this 100% allowance, and all the businesses that are going to be taking advantage of this. But if you treat your office staff or clients, you can deduct 100% of that. Another thing that I found really important was they reduced the age pension distribution for construction workers. Normally, when you take a withdraw from your 401k or your IRA, if you're under 59 and a half, you pay a penalty. And so that's basically like the year that you can take your money out and run and do whatever you want, retire. But they actually, for this act, they reduced the minimum age if you're in the construction business or you're a building trade worker. I have a few of those. And so it reduced it to age 55. So that means that they can take their money out earlier and spend it how they want, retire, roll it over into something, and not have to pay that 10% penalty. Another thing that is really, really big this year is if your income was higher in 2019 than it was in 2020, you can now take the earned income tax credit. Now, let's say in 2019 you made 80,000, this year you made 40, you would qualify for the income tax credit, but you do have to, they do have to know what your 2019 tax credit, I mean, what your 2019 revenue was, or your adjusted gross income. And so if you do try to take this credit, it is going to take them a little bit longer to process your refund, because they're going to verify that the credit is correct. And so just be kind of mindful of that turnaround time. On the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021, this one is on the table right now. We're hoping that Congress can pass something, hopefully by Friday, hopefully by Monday. I was hoping sooner, and then they took a 2-week break. But there's a lot of new stuff coming out on the American Rescue Plan. And I wanted to talk about, everyone's talking about this $15 minimum wage increase. So when this passes, you're not going to wake up the next day and minimum wage is going to be at $15. It's going to be hopefully a gradual increase. So it might start at $9 for 2020 and then move up to maybe $11. But this is something that Congress is still deciding. And that's kind of why it's taking so long. So it's getting passed through the House and should be making its way to the Senate pretty soon. So just cross your fingers. It's also going to increase federal unemployment benefits from that $300 a week to $400 a week. There's going to be more changes to PPP. I think everybody's still figuring everything out as far as reporting the forgiveness and getting that relief. The Biden administration this week also made like an implication to prioritize small businesses with under 20 employees. So as long as you can get your application in the next 14 days, they're going to put you in front of the line. But remember, again, on PPP, if you don't have payroll, you have to have profit, and that profit is going to decide your loan amount. And so if you guys have questions on that, I'm happy to ask them. But basically, if you do have payroll, whatever your payroll is, whatever the total it is for the year, you're going to take that number, you're going to divide it by 12, and then multiply by 2.5, and that'll give you your PPP amount. But again, on the new American Rescue Plan, there are going to be more changes to PPP. They're going to allow more funds to nonprofits, and I believe more to childcare. There's also going to be more relief for restaurants and bars, which we really haven't seen very much of. And there's also the potential for new financial support for parents. And so normally if you have a child, you get a $2,000 tax credit if they're under the age of 16. Now they might say, okay, that credit that we're going to give you on your tax return, we're going to increase it, and you can actually choose to take it in a monthly payment ahead before you even file your tax return. So they're going to give you kind of an advance, but they're still working out all the kinks and all the rules and everything that's changing. And so hopefully in the next week we see the changes from that. So again, all of that stuff is COVID related, and this last page is things that are coming into play. So if you are a small business and you have a Schedule C or you have a S corporation, remember that back before 2017, if you had to have health insurance, and if you didn't have health insurance, you had to pay a tax penalty. Well, in 2018, that changed. You no longer have to pay the penalty, but if you do get insurance through the marketplace, you do have to report it. And if you pay insurance anywhere else, like private through Blue Cross Blue Shield or Ambetter or something like that, that's outside of the marketplace, either way, if you're self-employed, whatever you pay in premiums is deductible. So if you're a W-2 employee and your premiums and your doctor's visits and prescriptions aren't as much as your standard deduction, you won't get to take any credit or basically like a rebate on your health insurance premiums. But if you are a small business owner, it's deductible. Again, like I said, the credit for sick and family leave is going to be big. This is your opportunity to get some free credit for reporting if you had COVID or you took care of somebody that had COVID. And this again is only for small businesses. Another thing that I had touched on was the earned income tax credit. So make sure that you take advantage of that. Make sure you have your 2019 tax return and review that number, or your profit and loss, where you can demonstrate that you did have a reduction in your total income and that you qualify for that credit. Another thing that I think a lot of people don't know is that when you buy a vehicle or equipment for your business, and you have a business percentage use, or maybe your car, you use it a lot for work, you use it a lot for travel, and let's say you bought a new SUV, well, you can take the bonus depreciation on that. If you have like a luxury SUV, it's 18,100 in that first year that you bought it, and so you get to take it as an expense against your income. And so when you are getting a loan other than PPP, you get to add back that depreciation to your profit. PPP is the only loan that won't let you do that. So you have to be very careful, like I said, and play to the dance, to the music for the dance that the bank wants you to. Again, like equipment, if you buy a printer or if you buy certain things that you are for your business, they're 100% deductible as long as you put them in depreciation. Another credit that you should be taking care of deduction is the qualified business income deduction. And that's basically a 20% deduction as long as you are one of the qualified businesses. If you're unsure if you've ever filed for that, or because you could be doing it since 2018. If you have a question to see if your business is a qualified business, you can go ahead and ask me, shoot me a message, and we'll determine if you are and if you're eligible for that credit. And also just remember, if you took that early retirement distribution, you have to file that form and you have to pay that back within 3 years. If not, it becomes taxable and you don't want to see the tax bill for not paying it back. Almost lastly, if you made a deduction or if you made a donation to a charity, the IRS is actually, normally if you make a donation, let's say to like the Boys and Girls Club or American Red Cross, it's only deductible if you itemize. But because of everything going on with the pandemic, they really want to give relief to people that I guess went out of their way to kind of give back and help others. And so now whatever gifts you made or donations to charity, it's deductible from your income. And so if you have any of those receipts, some clients give me like hands full of all their donations. And so this will be the year that you get to maximize those. And I also just wanted to remind you guys to file early, especially if you are needing a business loan. File early, and also avoid mailing your return. If you didn't know, last year the IRS shut down from March to September, and so all of their locations were closed. Their mail is so backed up. They predict that they're not going to get through everything for about 4 years. And so avoid mailing anything if you have to. Now we can do amendments online on e-file. And so if you need something changed, you can do it online, but avoid mailing anything. They will take your payments, but they won't process your amendment or your tax return as quickly as you like. And they will also, like, let's say you're due a refund for 2017 or 2018, and it's sitting there in their pile of mail, they will pay you interest. And so I think I had a return that took forever to get processed, and I received an interest statement from the IRS on what they paid. And also, again, just hire a tax professional. I don't care who you hire other than, notary, but hire somebody that knows about all the tax changes and that can really help you maximize your deductions. Make sure you're not overpaying in taxes to the IRS, and also make sure that you're paying your taxes to the IRS. remember this one client that came in that their previous accountant never made their payroll tax payments, and they ended up owing the IRS like millions of dollars because the payments were never made. And so ask for those reports, make sure that those payments are coming out of your account on a regular basis, as they should be. And I've had some people also that, go to their friends, and maybe their friends don't know about all the tax laws with being a Schedule C or a partnership or an S Corp or a C Corp. And so again, I can't emphasize enough on hiring a tax professional. For 2021, just because you guys have some time to kind of think about things and your business growth and your strategies, I'm just putting a few things that I would kind of consider. One, remember that business meals are 100% deductible. So go have a nice lunch, treat your clients, talk business, and enjoy some margaritas for me at 100% deduction for the IRS. Also, if you own a building, we saw how much it sucked last week not having water and power and depending on somebody else to make that decision if your lights are going to turn on or not. Right now, if your business decides to go solar, they extended the credit for everyone. It was supposed to go down to 22%, and the new administration came in and decided to make the tax credit 26% for 21 and 2022. But if you have a building or you own a building for your business, what people don't know is that you get to take the total amount of the solar panel installation and take bonus depreciation on it. And so it'll cut your tax bill. You can even use that credit and roll it back or forward 5 years. And so like, let's say your company owed 100,000 last year or the year before, you can use that tax credit and roll it back to take care of that tax liability. Also, with everything that's going on right now, make sure you know how much how much you need for working capital, how much you need to have in your bank for another emergency, and just have on hand to run your payroll, to run pay your utilities and your business operation expenses. That's kind of just like a financial tip, like know how much working capital you need to stay afloat. A lot of people are getting funding right now and they're spending every penny of it. And so I just want to make sure everyone is acting responsibly, because let's say you take that PPP money and you don't pay it on payroll, then you're not going to be forgiven. And so you're going to have to pay back the full amount. So just be wise on how you spend it. Know what your numbers are. Do monthly budgeting, check in with your accountant on a regular basis, make sure you're doing some bookkeeping, make sure you have a separate business account where you're tracking your income and expenses, because if you put it into your personal account, it can get really messy. And also, if you are a small business and maybe you're doing really great now in 2021 or 2020, and you're starting to grow, you're starting to really see profits, start considering investing in for the future. As a business owner, you can open up a SEP IRA, and it's basically kind of like a 401k for somebody that's self-employed. And what you can do is you can take 25% of whatever your profit is and invest that in the market, or it's either 25% of your profit or 57,000, whichever is the lesser amount. So it can exceed 57,000 for 2021, but that's a good way to plan for retirement, put some money away, pay yourself this year if you want to. And you can always make those contributions like up until April 15th of the following year for the prior year. Another thing that I did want to mention is index universal life insurance. It's probably not something that you've heard of, but if you are a business owner, I would consider considering it, especially right now that we're seeing so many people not have life insurance, or we're seeing a lot of GoFundMe accounts on Facebook. you can actually get insurance on yourself or your business partner if you're a partnership through a buy-sell agreement, fund it with an IUL, and then let's say you need cash or you need working capital, you have cash built up in this life policy, and you can also structure a tax-free retirement. And so I'm happy to give you some more advice and consultation on that. But it's a really good way to protect your business. Companies like JCPenney, Walt Disney, and banks fund their key man employees and grow their business through IUL products. So that's enough of the boring stuff from me. But if you guys have any questions, I'm here to answer your questions. I'll check the Q&A section. You can call or text me anytime at 977-8888. My email is amber@ambitiousmgmt.com, and my office is located in the historic downtown at 1802 Houston Street. And I really don't know how fast I went, but I'm here to answer any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Amber. That was pretty thorough. I think, like I said, you kind of need pen and paper for this kind of stuff. That was really good. I'm not seeing questions right now in the chat or in the kind of Facebook, the Facebook Live either. I would ask a question because we get this all the time. We have a lot of like solo entrepreneurs at MileOne. People are kind of aspiring to start a business. What do you recommend for like somebody who can't afford bookkeeping yet? What do you recommend for kind of like a startup bookkeeping that's like affordable or free that they can do themselves maybe? What is your advice on something like that?
So there is QuickBooks Online. I definitely recommend starting with QuickBooks. I really haven't found anything that compares to it, but you can get QuickBooks Online for as low as $12 a month. And if your bank allows it, they can even integrate your bank statements. And so you'll just have to go in there and reconcile and make sure that the categories are correct. There's also like a live person that you can talk to. You can call them when you have questions. And so that's like a good startup way to do it. Right now, like I really don't charge that much for bookkeeping. I think it's a very small expense for something that provides a lot for your business. And so I think it's something that as you start growing, you might want to continue. If you have more than 50 transactions a month, then it's something to consider, because remember, you want to maximize your time as a small business owner. You don't want to get behind on your books or do things wrong. And so it maybe paying somebody, to do the bookkeeping will be a really good investment for you to start and track your expenses correctly.
Yeah, thank you. I've heard that too. Using like the startup QuickBooks. A lot of people still use maybe like Excel or just notebooks or things like that, which I know my dad has a business and he has like a checkbook and like he's very old school. But I know it can be a pain to kind of like organize yourself that way. We do have a question from Sonia Garcia. She asks, what are the figures on sick leave and family leave for COVID? I'm not sure you'd be able to answer that, but
Yeah, it's actually a formula that's going to go based on what your profit is for your business. So you can take the credit for up to 50 days, and then depending what your profit is, it's going to like generate the amount basically. I haven't memorized the formula because the system does it for me, but if you took it for yourself and 2 other family members, it can be up to $15,000 credit. That's like the max.
okay. I'm trying to get back to our Facebook Live here to see if there's any questions through there. I have like 10 screens open. Here we go. Victoria asked on Facebook Live, is the credit for business owners who got COVID or cared for someone in 2021, maybe she meant 2020, be available for next year's tax return? I guess that credit you talked about
Yes,
at the beginning.
yeah. Yeah, the credit is gonna be, so far it's good until March 31st, 2021. So it'll be available next year when you file your taxes. But as of, if you got it from up to March 2020 to December 31st, you can claim that credit now. And then January 1st, 2021 through March 31st, 2021, you can claim it on your 2021 tax return. Unless this next legislation extends that period, which it could.
Mhm. Yeah, and you mentioned,
Hopefully it does. Hopefully, and
hopefully quickly, right?
yeah,
Yeah, and you mentioned like the reporting was you didn't have to provide maybe a medical record, right? For that, I think everyone's being pretty respectful of people's privacy with that. So,
absolutely. So you don't have to prove that you had COVID or that you had a positive result. There were a lot of people that maybe they had symptoms and they just called their doctor and their doctor said, oh, you probably have COVID, don't go get tested, right? And so it's actually just an attachment on the tax return. Like I have to go and manually attach it and say that they're taking this credit, and it's different from my regular printing. I have to go manually attach it, but yeah, they're not requiring any proof, also because of like HIPAA and stuff. So I don't think it's something that's going to be audited either. I think the IRS has a lot going on that they're not going to be really scrutinizing those credits very much.
right. So your advice would be maybe just to like record those days, and if they did have that in 2020, maybe look at their emails, look at their texts, and figure out what those days
Yeah.
were.
Yeah, somebody's going to know if they couldn't work for 2 weeks because they have COVID or because it took them 30 days to recover before they could go back to work. So, I mean, you don't even have to go back and prove it that much. You just have to say, like, I was out of work 30 days and I'm self-employed. So I'm going to put 30 days on my tax return, and that's what it's going to be. I took 30 days for myself. I took 12 days for my daughter or whatever, or I took 30 days to take care of my parent, and there's going to be no questions asked about it. It's going to be what it is.
Yeah, it'd be cool if, yeah, they did that for the W-2 people kind of as well. I'm not.
Yeah, I think that they should have.
Yeah, it's a lot of people kind of miss time. I don't see any other questions here. Amber, thank you so much again. Super informative.
Thank you.
Uh, for anyone watching live right now, the recording is on our Facebook page. I'm sure Amber is going to share it to her page as well. So you'll be able to see this video in its entirety if you want to rewind or look at something specific. We will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. with Victoria Valdez from People Fund. She's going to talk about some of the funding options, kind of alternative funding options that exist right now, where you don't have to like take out a loan from a bank. There are SBA options. There's options through People Fund. There's all the SBA COVID relief funding that exists out there. Like Amber mentioned earlier, for the next 2 weeks, they're going to be accepting PPP for only people with 20 or fewer employees. So this is a good time to kind of start thinking about that if you haven't already. So we'll see everybody here tomorrow. Thank you, Amber, so much. That was awesome, super informative. I love the graphics on the PowerPoint as well. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for doing this. Thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you guys tomorrow, same time. Bye.
Thanks so much, guys.